Welcome to this training presentation on defining the desired states for Checkpoint 2. The elements included in this presentation are programs and initiatives, training, student engagement, enforcement, and family and community engagement. The intended audiences for this presentation are learning supports consultants and members of the certification team. As you know, there are a total of 8 elements in the certification program, and these 8 are broken into 2 checkpoints. Checkpoint 1 includes the first 3 foundational elements: data, buy-in, and leadership. We discussed these elements in a separate presentation. The elements for Checkpoint 2 are listed here and are the focus of this presentation: programs and initiatives, training, student engagement, enforcement, and family and community engagement. You also know that each of the elements consists of one or more desired states that specify what the school is expected to accomplish in order to measure up to the expectations for certification. The purpose of this presentation is to help you understand how each of the desired states is defined, including how each one fits into the IS3 process, as well as what IS3 related artifacts could be submitted in order to satisfy the desired state for the purpose of certification. Remember that additional artifact suggestions can be found in the 8 Elements Training Guide. That document is attached to this slide and can be accessed by clicking the link in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. The first element we'll consider in this presentation is programs. These are the 4 desired states for this element. You can click the pause button if you'd like to read each of these desired states now. Otherwise, we're about to examine them in more detail on the following slides to make sure we understand what each one means. Research has shown that the most effective bullying prevention and intervention programs are ones that are based on 10 core best practices. Many schools prefer to utilize a packaged program that has its own research and evidence base for reducing incidents of bullying and harassment. The Safe School Certification Program, however, does not require that you use one of these prepackaged programs. As long as the work you are doing aligns with these 10 best practices, you will pass this desired state with flying colors. You provide evidence of meeting these 10 best practices primarily through interpreting your data, identifying needs, and addressing them through your implementation plan. A brief description of these 10 best practices can be found by clicking on the attachment found in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Feel free to print this 2-page reference if you desire. You can use it to determine how well your programming efforts align with what research indicates is most effective at addressing bullying and harassment issues. The school's programming also needs to provide different levels of support to meet diverse student needs. These levels of support are typically grouped into the following tiers: school-wide, also referred to as core or universal, which is focused on addressing the needs of all students in the school; supplemental, which includes more specialized supports for students who need it; and intensive, which focuses on highly specialized and individualized supports for students who need it. A template has been provided for you to use if you wish by clicking the attachment in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. You can use this template to map the levels of your programs and also use it as an artifact to submit as part of your pursuit of certification. This final desired state of the programs element focuses on the programs and initiatives being well coordinated with one another, as well as planning ahead for the sustainability of those programs over time. Notice that a portion of this desired state also requires the programs to be tied back to the data and goals that were addressed in checkpoint 1 within the data element. Schools are encouraged to refer back to the artifacts and information they provided in that element when completing this desired state. The IS3 implementation plan documents, which outline clear and measurable targets, provide solid evidence of meeting this standard. The next element has to do with training. You can see the desired states listed here. You can click the pause button if you'd like to read each of these desired states now. Otherwise, we're about to examine them in more detail on the following slides to make sure we understand what each one means. The first half of desired state T1 has to do with the school making sure specific people in specific roles are knowledgeable about the laws related to bullying and harassment. Let's pull apart the gist of what this part of the desired state is saying. First, specific roles are identified to receive training, namely all school staff, all students, appropriate volunteers, particularly those who have direct contact with students, and students' families. Second, that training must occur every year. Finally, 3 content areas have been specified for training: Iowa's law on bullying and harassment, how to report bullying incidents when they occur in the building, and the Federal Equal Access Act. The attachment found in the lower left-hand corner of your screen contains more information about all 3 of these requirements. The second half of this first desired state for training builds on the reporting aspect that was described on the previous slide. In any given school, there must be at least one staff member who is trained in the specifics of reporting the school's incidents of bullying and harassment to the State Department of Education. This staff member is also expected to keep up to date on any changes to that process over time. Here, you can see the login page for reporting incidents of bullying and harassment. There are great resources available on the Department of Education's website that help schools understand this process, including handouts, a Q&A, and a webinar. You can access this information by clicking on the link shown. When it comes to meeting both parts of this desired state, think about how you can best describe each training's content, delivery method, schedule, and strategy for reaching the desired audiences. In some cases, one delivery method may address several topics of content. For example, one PowerPoint presentation may cover the anti-bullying law and reporting requirements. You can be creative with the many different ways training can be delivered. The main points here are to make sure that the trainings are actually delivered and that each of the listed audiences receive that training. A simple table can be used to help outline the trainings that have been delivered as well as those that have been planned. What you see here is just one example of how such a table could be formatted. A copy of this template is available as an attachment for download. Simply click the link in the lower left-hand corner of the screen. The chart you see here is the same as the one used for the previous desired state, T1. Simply add the training details for this desired state to the chart. The next element we'll consider in this presentation is student engagement. Here you can see the 3 desired states associated with this element. Feel free to click the pause button if you'd like to read each of these desired states now. Otherwise, we're about to examine each of them in more detail on the following slides to make sure we understand what each one means. The pieces of this desired state that stand out are that students are active members of groups, that those groups seek out diverse and inclusive membership, as well as support the bullying and harassment prevention efforts taking place school-wide. For the purpose of certification, a student group is defined as an often student-created and student-led organization within a school that provides students with opportunities for engagement and belonging. Keep in mind that the ultimate goal here is to make sure as many students as possible are involved in at least one student group that engages them in an activity of interest. When considering students as active members, some questions a school might ask itself while working to fulfill this desired state might include: how many student groups do we have? What percentage of our student population is involved in one or more of these groups? Is there a common thread among the students who are not involved in any of these groups? What actions should be considered based on what our data tells us about student engagement in our school? In some cases, it's appropriate to conduct a focus group of students to find out the extent to which the existing student groups meet the standards set by this desired state. If you'd like to conduct a focus group, a resource for doing so is available by clicking the attachment in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. Along these same lines, when considering the extent to which their student groups are diverse and inclusive, some questions a school might ask itself could be: in general, how diverse is our student body? To what extent are student groups also diverse compared to the entire school? And how do our student groups feel they can best reach out, invite, and remain open, having marginalized students potentially join them? Finally, for this desired state, when considering the extent to which their student groups support larger anti-bullying efforts, some questions a school might ask itself could be: what is the purpose of each group? How does each group's stated purpose potentially relate to our school-wide efforts to prevent bullying? And how does each group's actions reflect the school's anti-bullying efforts? This desired state asks schools to spend some time thinking about which of their students seem to be less involved in school and the possible reasons why. This is a perfect opportunity, among many others, to have the student leadership team get involved and weigh in with their viewpoints, along with the results of any research they have done on this question of engagement. Once the school knows more about the why, they will describe what they are planning to do to address the need and how they will keep track of how well it works. This desired state focuses on the extent to which students and student groups provide valuable input and feedback about bullying and harassment based on their varied experiences in school. Student groups can be ideal sources of information beyond what students provide via school-wide surveys, and this is a perfect opportunity for the school's student leadership team, or SLT, to help plan and implement the process for seeking this feedback. This could involve informal surveys, focus groups, individual interviews, and so on. The student team can also be actively involved in determining the best way to encourage student groups to more actively engage in bullying prevention efforts that are consistent with the school's efforts. A sample guidance document is available in the lower left-hand corner of your screen. It is designed to help you think about some possible actions and artifacts to meet each of the desired states we just reviewed for this element. The next element we'll consider in this presentation is enforcement. Here you can see